Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, watching the red clouds of the Crimson Nebula swirl before them. The nebula stretched across space like a giant crimson storm, beautiful and deadly. His crew had been traveling for 3 weeks to reach this place, and now they were finally here. "Captain, we're getting those warnings again," said Sora from her communication station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls, trying to filter through the static. Same message, repeating over and over. Hyunwoo walked over to her station. "Play it again." The bridge filled with the sound of crackling static. Then an alien voice spoke in the common galactic language. The voice was old and tired, full of fear. "Warning to all ships. Do not enter the Crimson Nebula. The Deathworld sleeps here. The cursed children wait in the darkness. They bring only destruction. Turn back while you still can." Tae-ho, the chief engineer, laughed from his position near the engine controls. "Same old ghost stories. These messages are probably hundreds of years old, maybe thousands. The Galactic Council banned all travel to this area," said Dong-hyun, the security chief. His hand rested on his weapon, as always. "Maybe we should listen to them." Hyunwoo shook his head. "The Council bans everything they don't understand. That's why we're explorers. We go where others fear to go." He looked at his navigator. "Jimin, how are our scans looking?" Jimin studied her instruments carefully. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "Captain, I'm seeing something incredible. There's a massive object deep in the nebula. It's not moving, just drifting." "What kind of object?" Hyunwoo asked. "It's huge, bigger than anything in our database. The computer can't identify it, but the shape looks artificial, like a ship, but not like any ship we've ever seen." Yoonji, the xenobiologist, looked up from her research station. "Captain, I've been studying the warning messages. They come from at least 12 different alien species, all extinct now. They all say the same thing about a death world and cursed. Children. Extinct species love to leave scary warnings," Tae-ho said. "It makes them feel important after they're gone." Hyunwoo considered this. The Eternal Dawn was built for exploration, not war. They had basic shields and simple weapons, but they were scientists and explorers, not soldiers. Still, the mystery of the nebula called to him. In 30 years of space travel, he had never found anything this interesting. "Sora, send a message back to the Council," he said. "Tell them we've reached the nebula, and we're beginning our investigation." "Captain," Sora said quietly, "what if the warnings are real?" Hyunwoo smiled. "Then we'll be the first to prove it. Jimin, set course for that object. Slow and careful." The Eternal Dawn moved deeper into the red clouds. The nebula was beautiful but strange. It seemed to absorb their sensors, making everything fuzzy and unclear. The red light from the gas clouds made everything on the bridge look like it was covered in blood. "I'm getting better readings now," Jimin said. "Captain, this thing is massive. It's at least 5 kilometers long. The design is unlike anything I've ever seen." "Can you tell if it's a ship?" Hyunwoo asked. "Yes, sir. Definitely artificial." "But it's old. Very old. And, Captain, it's not dead. I'm reading power signatures. Faint, but there." Dong-hyun stepped forward. "A ship that old shouldn't have any power left. Unless it has technology we don't understand," Yoonji said. "Captain, what if this is what the warnings were about?" Hyunwoo studied the readings on his screen. The object was huge and angular, built like a weapon rather than an exploration vessel. It had no curves or gentle lines. Everything about it looked designed for war. Taeho, what do you think? Hyunwoo asked. The engineer studied his instruments. The power readings are strange. It's like the ship is sleeping, not dead. And Captain, I'm seeing some kind of containment fields inside the ship. Something is being kept in suspended animation. Life signs? Hyunwoo asked. Can't tell from here. The ship's hull is blocking our deep scans. Sora spoke up from her station. Captain, I'm trying to establish communication with the ship, but there's no response. Either no one is awake, or they're not interested in talking. Hyunwoo made his decision. We're going aboard. Dong-hyun, prepare an away team. Full environmental suits and basic weapons. Yoonji, you're coming with us. We need a xenobiologist if we find any life forms. Captain, Jimin said. Are you sure this is wise? The warnings specifically mentioned cursed children and destruction. The warnings also mentioned a deathworld, Hyunwoo replied. But all I see is an old ship that's been drifting here for who knows how long. The aliens who left those warnings are all dead. Whatever they were afraid of, it didn't save them. The away team prepared their equipment, while the Eternal Dawn moved closer to the mysterious ship. As they got nearer, the true size of the vessel became clear. It was enormous, built like a giant arrowhead pointing through space. The hull was dark metal, scarred by countless battles. Strange symbols were carved into the surface, but they didn't match any known alien language. Those markings, Yoonji said, studying them through the viewport. They're not decorative. They look functional, like warnings or instructions. Can you read them? Hyunwoo asked. No, but the style is familiar somehow, like something I've seen before but can't remember where. Taeho found a docking port that seemed compatible with their shuttle. I can. Get us inside, Captain. But once we're there, we'll be committed. This ship could have security systems we don't understand. All the more reason to learn about it, Hyunwoo said. Sora, maintain communication with the away team at all times. If something goes wrong, get us out of here fast. The shuttle detached from the Eternal Dawn and moved toward the dark ship. As they got closer, Hyunwoo could see that the vessel was even more impressive than their scans had shown. It was built for war, but it was also beautiful in its own, deadly way. Every line and angle served a purpose. Docking successful, Taeho reported. The airlock is responding to our commands. That's strange. This ship should be completely dead after so many years. Maybe someone is expecting visitors, Dong-hyun said, checking his weapon one more time. Or maybe the ship is automatic, Yoonji suggested. Some species build ships that can run themselves for thousands of years. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, revealing a corridor beyond. The air inside was breathable but cold. Emergency. Lights glowed dimly along the walls, casting strange shadows. Well, Hyunwoo said, we came here to explore. Let's see what secrets this ship is hiding. The away team stepped into the corridor, not knowing they were about to discover the truth behind the galaxy's most feared legends. Behind them, the eternal dawn waited in the red clouds of the nebula, while ahead lay answers that would change everything they thought they knew about the universe. The corridor stretched ahead of them like a metal tunnel. Dong-hyun led the way, his weapon ready, while Yoonji followed close behind with her scanning equipment. Captain Hyunwoo brought up the rear, watching their backs. The ship felt alive somehow, even though it seemed empty. The gravity is working, Taeho said through their communication link from the shuttle. That's impossible for a ship this old. The power system should have failed centuries ago. Everything about this ship is impossible, Hyunwoo replied. Keep monitoring our life signs. If anything happens, get back to the Eternal Dawn and warn the others. The walls were covered with the same strange symbols they had seen outside. Yunji stopped to examine them more closely. These markings are everywhere. They're not just decorative. I think they're some kind of writing system. Can you translate them? Dong Hyun asked, not taking his eyes off the corridor ahead. Not yet, but there's something familiar about them. The style reminds me of something, but I can't place what. They moved deeper into the ship. The corridors were wide enough for 3 people to walk side by side, but the ceiling was lower than they expected. Whoever built this ship was roughly the same size as them, but maybe a little shorter. "Captain," Yunji said, "I'm getting some interesting readings. There are large chambers ahead of us, and I'm detecting some kind of preservation system. Something is being kept in suspended animation." "Life signs?" Hyunwoo asked. "Maybe. The readings are unclear, but there's definitely organic material, and it's being maintained in some kind of stasis." They reached a junction where 3 corridors met. Dong Hyun checked each direction carefully. "All clear. Which way do we go?" Yunji consulted her scanner. "The strongest readings are coming from the left corridor. There's a large chamber about 50 meters ahead." They followed the left corridor, their footsteps echoing softly in the metal passage. The walls here were different. Instead of just symbols, there were pictures carved into the metal. They showed creatures that looked almost human, but different. Somehow. Stronger. More dangerous. "Look at these images," Yunji said, stopping to study them. "These beings are bipedal like us. But look at their build. They're heavily muscled. And these scenes they're carved into..." The pictures showed the humanoid creatures fighting various alien species. In every image, the humanoids were winning. They fought with weapons, with their bare hands, and with vehicles that looked like smaller versions of the ship they were now exploring. "They're warriors," Dong Hyun said. "Every image shows them in battle." "But who were they fighting?" Hyunwoo asked. Yunji moved to another section of the wall. "These aliens here, I recognize some of these species. They're in our historical database. And Captain, they're all extinct." "All of them?" "Every single one. They all died out hundreds or thousands of years ago. But according to our records, they died from natural causes. Plague, environmental collapse, civil wars. Nothing about being destroyed by these warrior beings." They continued down the corridor until they reached a large door. It was sealed, but as they approached, it began to open automatically. Beyond was a vast chamber filled with rows of cylindrical pods. Each pod was about 2 meters long and glowed with a soft blue light. "Hibernation pods," Dong Hyun said. "Hundreds of them." Yunji moved to the nearest pod and ran her scanner over it. "Captain, there's a life form inside this one. It's alive, but in deep stasis. The preservation system is incredibly advanced. This being could have been sleeping for thousands of years and still be perfectly healthy." Hyunwoo approached another pod. Through the transparent front, he could see a figure inside. It was humanoid, just like the creatures in the wall carvings. The being was tall and powerfully built, with features that looked almost human but somehow more refined, more dangerous. "They look like us," he said quietly. "Similar but different," Yunji agreed. "The bone structure is heavier. The muscle density is much higher. These beings are built for combat." "How many pods are there?" Hyunwoo asked. Dong Hyun did a quick count. "At least 300. Maybe more." Yunji continued scanning the nearest pod. "Captain, I'm reading some kind of automatic revival system. If triggered, these pods could wake up their occupants." "Don't touch anything," Hyunwoo said quickly. We don't know if these beings are friendly. But as he spoke, Yunji's scanner made a soft beeping sound. She looked down at it in confusion. I didn't activate anything. I was just taking readings. The pod she had been scanning began to glow brighter. The blue light changed to white, then to amber. There was a soft hissing sound as gases were released. Get back! Dong-hyun ordered, raising his weapon. Wait, Hyun-woo said. If we shoot now, we might wake up all of them. Let's see what happens. The pod finished its cycle and opened with a smooth, mechanical sound. The being inside took a deep breath and sat up slowly. Its eyes opened and looked directly at them. The creature was definitely humanoid, but clearly not the same species as them. Its skin was pale but tough-looking. Its hair was dark and cut short. When it looked at them, its eyes were sharp and intelligent, but also dangerous. This was a predator, Hyun-woo realized. A born killer. The being spoke in a language they didn't recognize. Its voice was rough, like someone who hadn't spoken in a very long time. Sora, Hyun-woo said into his communicator, are you picking this up? Yes, Captain. The translation computer is working on it. Give me a moment. The being stood up slowly, studying them carefully. It was taller than any of them and moved with the fluid grace of a trained fighter. Even though it had just awakened from what might have been centuries of sleep, it seemed completely alert. It spoke again, and this time Sora's voice came through their communicators with a translation. The words are, Who are you? Where is Earth? Hyun-woo felt a chill run down his spine. Earth? It's asking about Earth? That's impossible, Yunji whispered. Earth is just a legend, the mythical homeworld of humans. The being seemed to understand that they were trying to communicate. It pointed to itself and said a single word. Human. Dong-hyun lowered his weapon slightly. It's saying it's human. But humans are just a myth, Yunji said. A story about a species that spread across the galaxy before any of our civilizations existed. The being looked around the chamber, seeing all the other pods. It spoke again, longer this time. Sora's translation came through. How long have we been sleeping? Where are the others? Has Earth called us home? Hyun-woo made a decision. He stepped forward slowly, hands visible and empty. I am Captain Hyun-woo of the exploration vessel Eternal Dawn. We are peaceful explorers. The being listened to the translation, then nodded slowly. It pointed to the other pods and spoke again. Sora translated, My name is Jae-sung. These are my warriors. We have been sleeping, waiting for the call to defend humanity's children. How long has it been? We don't know how long you've been here, Hyun-woo said. Your ship was found drifting in this nebula. We came to investigate. Jae-sung's expression changed when he heard this. He looked confused, then concerned. He spoke rapidly, and Sora translated. We were not supposed to drift. We were stationed here to guard against the Devourers. If we are drifting, then our mission has failed. The galaxy is in danger. What are Devourers? Yunji asked. But before Jae-sung could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The other pods began to glow and hiss as their revival cycles started. Jae-sung looked around with growing alarm and spoke urgently. Sora's translation was grim. Something has triggered the emergency revival protocol. All warriors are awakening. This only happens when the Devourers have been detected nearby. Hyun-woo grabbed his communicator. Tae-ho, get back to the ship immediately. Sora, run a full sensor sweep of the area. Look for anything unusual. Captain, Sora's voice crackled through the calm. "I'm reading multiple ships approaching our position. They're moving fast and they're big. Very big." The pods around them continued to open, revealing more of the warrior humans. They all looked similar to Jae Sung, tall, strong, and deadly. As they awakened, they immediately began talking to each other in their ancient language. Jae Sung turned to Hyunwoo with an expression of grim determination. Through Sora's translation, he said, "Captain, you have awakened us at the right time. The Devourers have found this sector. Your people are in great danger. We are humanity's last defense against the machines that consume worlds." Hyunwoo realized that their simple exploration mission had just become something much more serious. They had found the truth behind the galaxy's oldest legends, and that truth was about to put them all in terrible danger. The chamber filled with the sounds of awakening warriors. One by one, the pods opened and revealed their occupants. Each warrior was similar to Jae Sung, tall, powerfully built, and alert, despite having just awakened from what might have been centuries of sleep. They moved with the fluid efficiency of trained soldiers. A female warrior approached Jae Sung and spoke to him in their ancient language. She was shorter than him, but no less dangerous-looking. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone used to command. Jae Sung nodded to her and turned back to Hyunwoo. Through Sora's translation, he said, "This is Lieutenant Yoo-jin, my second in command. She wants to know the status of our mission." "What mission?" Hyunwoo asked. Jae Sung gestured for them to follow him to a section of the chamber where a large display screen had activated. The screen showed a map of the galaxy, with various sectors, marked in different colors. Many areas were marked in red. "We are the descendants of Earth," Jae Sung began, his words translated by Sora. "Our homeworld became uninhabitable long ago. War, pollution, and resource depletion made it impossible for normal humans to survive there. So our people spread across the galaxy in great colony ships." Yoo-jin added something, and Sora translated, "But not all of humanity left as peaceful colonists. Some of us were changed, enhanced, made stronger and faster and more dangerous." "Enhanced how?" Yoonji asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. Jae Sung touched a control, and the display changed to show biological data. Genetic modification, cybernetic implants, chemical treatments. We were made into weapons, living weapons, designed to protect humanity's colonies from threats that normal humans could not fight. "What kind of threats?" Hyunwoo asked. The display changed again, showing images of mechanical creatures. They looked like a cross between insects and machines, with multiple legs and arms ending in cutting tools. Their bodies were dark metal and their eyes glowed with an evil red light. "The Devourers," Yoo-jin said through the translation. "Machine intelligences that consume organic life. They strip planets bare, taking all the metal, all the energy, all the life. They leave nothing but dead rock behind," Jae Sung continued. The explanation. "The Devourers appeared about 1,000 years ago. No one knows where they came from. They spread across the galaxy, destroying everything in their path. Normal weapons could not stop them. Normal soldiers could not fight them. So humanity created us," Yoo-jin added. "We were volunteers from the colony ships. We gave up our humanity to become something that could fight the machines." Yoonji stepped closer to the display. "But why are you here? Why are you sleeping in this nebula?" "This is a guard station," Jae Sung explained. "We were placed here to watch for devourer activity in this sector. When they were detected, we would awaken and stop them." But you've been drifting, Dong-hyun pointed out. Your ship lost power to its engines. Jae-sung's expression became troubled. That should not have happened. Our ship was designed to operate for thousands of years without maintenance. If we are drifting, then something went wrong with our mission. Yoo-jin spoke to the other awakened warriors who had been listening to the conversation. Several of them moved to control stations around the chamber and began activating systems. The ship came alive around them, lights brightening and displays, showing status information. Captain Hyun-woo, Jae-sung said, your ship detected approaching vessels. Can you tell us how many and what type? Hyun-woo activated his communicator. Sora, what's the status on those incoming ships? Sora's voice crackled through the comm with barely controlled fear. Captain, there are 12 ships approaching. They're massive. Each one is at least as big as the ship you're on. And Captain? They match the descriptions in the old warning messages. These are the ships that destroyed the civilizations that left those warnings. Jae-sung and Yoo-jin exchanged a look of grim understanding. Jae-sung spoke to his warriors, who immediately began moving with purpose. Some headed toward what looked like weapons lockers, while others took positions at control stations. Captain, Jae-sung said, you need to get your people to safety. Take your ship and leave this system immediately. What about you? Hyun-woo asked. We will do what we were created to do. We will fight the Devourers and stop them from reaching the inhabited worlds in this sector. Yoo-jin added, 12 Devourer ships is a small force. We can handle them. But your exploration vessel would be destroyed in the first few seconds of combat. Hyun-woo felt torn. These warriors were offering to sacrifice themselves to protect civilians they had never met. But they had just awakened after centuries of sleep. How could they possibly fight 12 massive enemy ships? Jae-sung, he said, how many warriors do you have? 347, came the translation. All enhanced combat specialists. Against 12 ships that size? That's impossible odds. Jae-sung smiled for the first time since awakening. It was not a pleasant smile. Captain, you don't understand what we are. We are not normal humans. We are predators. We are killers. We are humanity's answer to the question of how to fight an enemy that cannot be reasoned with or frightened. Yoo-jin moved to a weapons locker and removed what looked like a rifle. But unlike any rifle Hyun-woo had ever seen, it was larger and more angular, with multiple barrels and energy cells. Our weapons are designed specifically to destroy Devourer. Technology, she explained. Our armor can withstand their energy blasts. Our ship can outmaneuver theirs, and our tactics have been refined over centuries of warfare. The ship shuddered slightly as something impacted the hull. Alarms began sounding, and the lights changed to red emergency lighting. They're already here, Jae-sung said. Captain, you need to leave now. But Hyun-woo found himself hesitating. What about after? If you win, what happens then? If we win, we will return to sleep until the next time we are needed, Yoo-jin said. This is our purpose. This is why we exist. And if you lose? Jae-sung's expression became hard. Then the Devourers will consume this sector, and millions of innocent people will die. Captain, go. Take your ship and warn the galactic authorities. Tell them the Devourers have returned to this region. Another impact shook the ship, stronger. This time. The warriors moved with increased urgency, preparing weapons and taking positions. Captain, came Taeho's voice over the communicator, the shuttle is ready for immediate departure, but Captain, you need to see what's happening out here. What is it? Hyun-woo asked. The enemy ships. They're not just ships, Captain, they're alive somehow. They're changing shape, adapting to our presence. and they're scanning our vessel. I think they're learning about our technology. Jae-sung heard this and spoke urgently to his warriors. Several of them ran to different parts of the ship. The Devourers learn from every encounter, he explained to Hyun-woo. If they scan your ship's technology, they will adapt their defenses against it. Your people's weapons will become useless. Then we have to stop them from scanning, Hyun-woo said. No, Yoo-jin said firmly. You have to leave. This is not your fight. You are explorers, not warriors. You would only get in our way. Hyun-woo realized she was right, but it felt wrong to abandon these warriors to fight alone. Is there nothing we can do to help? Jae-sung considered this. Yes. Survive. Return to your people and tell them what you learned here. The galaxy needs to know that humanity still exists and that we are still fighting. The myths about us may have saved civilizations by keeping them away from devourer territory. But the warnings painted you as the threat, Yoonji said. Because we are a threat, Yoo-jin replied. We are killers. We are monsters. But we are your monsters. We kill so that others can live in peace. The ship shook again, and this time the lights flickered. The battle was about to begin. Go, Jae-sung said. Remember what you learned here. Remember that humanity never abandoned the galaxy. We just became something else to protect it. Hyun-woo nodded and signaled his team to follow him back to the shuttle. As they left the chamber, he could hear the warriors calling out commands in their ancient language. They moved like a well-trained unit that had fought together for years. The truth was more incredible than any legend. Humanity was real, and they were still out there, standing guard against threats that would destroy entire civilizations. The warnings had been right about one thing. These humans were definitely dangerous, but they were dangerous to the right enemies. Hyun-woo and his team rushed through the corridors of the human warship, following their previous path back to the shuttle. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of the warriors preparing for battle. The ship itself seemed to be waking up, with lights brightening and systems humming to life. Captain? Tae-ho's voice crackled through their communicators. The enemy ships are positioning themselves around us. I count 12 of them now, and they're huge. Each one could swallow our ship whole. Get the shuttle ready for immediate departure, Hyun-woo ordered. We're coming back now. As they reached the shuttle bay, Hyun-woo turned back for one last look at the ship that had changed everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The human warship was no longer dark and silent. Lights blazed along its hull and weapon. Ports were opening to reveal guns unlike anything in the galactic databases. They reached the shuttle just as the first enemy attack began. Through the viewport, they could see energy beams striking the human ship's shields. The beams were massive, bright enough to light up the entire nebula. Any normal ship would have been destroyed instantly, but the human warship's shields held. Incredible, Yoonji breathed. Those energy levels should have overloaded any known shield system. These aren't normal humans, Dong-hyun said grimly, and this isn't a normal ship. Tae-ho launched the shuttle and began flying back toward the eternal dawn. As they traveled, they had a perfect view of the battle beginning around them. The Devourer ships were just as terrifying as the legends described. They were massive, angular vessels that seemed to shift and change shape as they moved. Their hulls were dark metal covered with cutting tools and weapon ports. They moved through space like giant predators stalking their prey. But the human warship moved like nothing Hyun-woo had ever seen. Despite its enormous size, it turned and accelerated with the grace of a fighter craft. Its weapons fired in perfect coordination, targeting multiple enemy ships at once. Captain, Sora's voice came through the communicator. I'm monitoring their communications. The humans are using tactical frequencies that shouldn't exist. Their coordination is perfect. As they watched, one of the smaller Devourer ships broke away from the main group and headed straight for the Eternal Dawn, its weapons charged with a red glow that grew brighter by the second. "Evasive maneuvers!" Hyun-woo shouted. But before Taeho could change course, something incredible happened. The human warship appeared between them and the attacking Devourer, moving so fast it seemed to teleport. Its weapons fired once, a brilliant blue beam that cut the Devourer ship in half. The enemy vessel exploded in a shower of metal and fire. The human warship was already moving away, engaging another target. "How did they do that?" Taeho asked in amazement. "No ship that big should be able to move that fast." They reached the Eternal Dawn and docked quickly. As soon as they were aboard, Hyun-woo rushed to the bridge. Through the main viewport, they could see the battle raging around them. "Status report," he ordered. 11 Devourer ships remaining, Jimin reported. "But, Captain, the human ship is... It's incredible. It's fighting, all of them at once and winning." Sora looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Captain, I've been analyzing their weapons. The energy output is beyond anything we've ever recorded. And their tactics. It's like they've fought these enemies 1,000 times before." "They probably have," Hyun-woo said, remembering Jae-sung's words about centuries of warfare. On the main screen, they watched as the human warship demonstrated capabilities that seemed impossible. It could turn on its axis without losing speed, fire weapons in all directions at once, and absorb damage that would destroy any other vessel. But more impressive than the ship was what happened next. Small craft began launching from the human warship. They were single-person fighters, sleek and deadly. But instead of engaging the enemy ships directly, they did something unexpected. They attached themselves to the Devourer hulls and began cutting their way inside. "They're boarding the enemy ships," Dong-hyun said in disbelief. "Who boards enemy ships during space combat?" Their question was answered when the first Devourer ship began exploding from the inside. Not all at once, but section by section, as if someone was systematically destroying its vital systems. "The warriors," Yoonji said quietly. "They're inside. The enemy ships, fighting hand to hand. Another Devourer ship suffered the same fate, then another. Each time, human fighters would attach to the hull, cut their way inside, and destroy the ship from within. It was the most dangerous tactic imaginable, but it was working." "Sora," Hyun-woo said, "are you recording all of this?" "Yes, sir. Every second. But, Captain, who's going to believe it? Warriors who can survive in space, board enemy ships during combat, and destroy vessels 1,000 times their size." As they watched, one of the human fighters was hit by enemy fire and thrown clear of the ship it was attacking. Instead of being killed by the explosion, the warrior inside somehow survived and used some kind of maneuvering pack to reach another enemy ship. "Their armor," Yoonji said, studying the readings. "It's not just protective. It's a complete life support system. They can survive in space indefinitely." The battle was turning into a rout. The Devourer ships, which had seemed so powerful and terrifying, were being systematically destroyed by tactics they couldn't counter. How do you defend against enemies who can survive in vacuum and fight hand-to-hand inside your own ship? "Captain," Jimin said, "I'm reading massive energy signatures from the remaining Devourer ships. I think they're preparing to retreat." But the human warship wasn't going to let them escape. It moved to block their retreat route, its weapons firing continuously. The remaining Devourer ships found themselves trapped between the human vessel and the nebula's edge. The final phase of the battle was swift and brutal. The human fighters, having destroyed several ships from within, regrouped and launched coordinated attacks on the remaining vessels. The Devourer ships, built to destroy planetary defenses and civilian populations, were completely unprepared for enemies who fought with such ruthless efficiency. When the last enemy ship exploded, the nebula fell silent except for the glow of burning wreckage. "It's over," Sora said quietly. 12 Devourer ships destroyed. No human casualties that I can detect. The human warship moved among the wreckage, collecting its fighters. Each warrior returned to the ship as if this had been a routine training exercise rather than a battle against impossible odds. "Captain," Tejo said, "they're hailing us." On the main screen, Jae-sung's face appeared. He looked exactly the same as when they had left him, showing no signs of the incredible battle he had just fought. "Captain Hyun-woo," he said through Sora's translation, "the immediate threat has been neutralized. Your ship is safe." "That was incredible," Hyun-woo said. "I've never seen anything like it." "This was a small engagement," Jae-sung replied. 12 ships is barely worth awakening for, but it confirms our fears. The Devourers have returned to this sector in force. This was just a scouting party." "A scouting party?" Yoon-ji said in shock. "Those ships could have destroyed entire star." "Systems?" "Yes," Yoo-jin said, appearing beside Jae-sung on the screen. "That is why we exist, to fight enemies that normal military forces cannot handle." Hyun-woo felt a chill as the full implications hit him. If those 12 massive ships were just scouts, what was the main force like? "Jae-sung," he said, "what happens now?" "Now we return to our sleep and wait. But, Captain, you have a more important task. You must return to your people and warn them. The galactic civilizations need to prepare. The Devourers are coming in numbers we have not seen for centuries." "Will you help us fight them?" Jae-sung considered this. "We will do what we have always done. We will hunt them in the dark places, where normal ships cannot go. We will board their vessels and destroy them from within. We will be the monsters that kill monsters." "But publicly, officially, we do not exist," Yoo-jin added. "We are myths and legends. It is better that way. People sleep easier at night not knowing what kind of guardians watch over them." The transmission ended, and they watched as the human warship began moving away from the battle site. Its lights dimmed as it prepared to return to its long sleep, waiting for the next time the galaxy needed its deadly guardians. "Captain," Sora said, "how do we report this? How do we explain what we've seen?" Hyun-woo thought about this for a long moment. They had proof that humanity was real, that the myths were true, and that a terrible enemy was coming. But they also had proof that somewhere in the darkness, enhanced human warriors stood ready to fight that enemy. "We tell the truth," he said finally. "All of it. Let the galaxy decide what to believe." The eternal dawn drifted in the aftermath of the battle, surrounded by the burning wreckage of 12 Devourer ships. Captain Hyun-woo stood on the bridge, trying to process everything they had witnessed. The human warship was already disappearing into the depths of the nebula, returning to its ancient vigil. "Captain," Tejo said from his engineering station, "I'm detecting some interesting readings from the wreckage. The Devourer ships are still partially active even after being destroyed." "What do you mean?" Hyun-woo asked. "Their computer systems are still functioning. It's like they're trying to transmit data somewhere, even while the ships are broken apart. Sora looked up from her communications station with concern. Captain, I'm intercepting those transmissions. They're sending detailed scans of our ship, the human warship, and everything that happened in this battle. Yunji moved to her analysis station and began studying the data streams. This is incredible. The Devourer technology is designed to learn from every encounter. Even in death, they're gathering intelligence. Intelligence for what? Dong-hyun asked. For the next wave, came a familiar voice. They turned to see Jae-sung's image appearing on their main screen. The human commander looked grim. Captain Hyunwoo, we need to talk. The situation is more serious than we first thought. I thought you were returning to sleep, Hyunwoo said. We were. But our ship's AI has been analyzing the wreckage, and we've discovered something troubling. Permission to come aboard your vessel? Hyunwoo hesitated, for only a moment. Granted. Shuttle Bay 2. 20 minutes later, Jae-sung and Yoo-jin materialized in the Eternal Dawn's shuttle bay. Up close, they were even more impressive than they had seemed on the alien ship. They moved with the fluid grace of predators, and their enhanced senses were clearly active, taking in every detail of their surroundings. Your ship is well designed for exploration, Yoo-jin observed as they walked to the bridge. But the defensive systems are minimal. You would not survive another encounter with the Devourers. We're not a military vessel, Hyunwoo explained. We're scientists and explorers. That may need to change, Jae-sung said grimly. They reached the bridge where the entire crew had gathered to meet their legendary visitors. Yoonji stepped forward eagerly. I have so many questions, she said. Your technology, your enhancements, the history of humanity. Later, Jae-sung said, cutting her off politely but firmly. Right now, we need to share what our AI discovered. Yoo-jin moved to the main display and connected a small device to their systems. The screen filled with data that made the crew gasp. This is a map of Devourer activity over the past 1,000 years, she explained. The red areas are sectors they have completely consumed. The yellow areas are sectors under attack. The green areas are sectors they have not yet reached. The map was mostly red and yellow. Only a few scattered green areas remained. By our calculations, Jae-sung said, the Devourers have consumed approximately 60% of the galaxy's inhabited worlds. They are accelerating their expansion. How is that possible? Jimin asked. There are thousands of advanced civilizations with powerful militaries. Were, Yoo-jin corrected. Most of those civilizations are gone now. The Devourers adapt to every weapon, every tactic, every defense. Each victory makes them stronger and smarter. Jae-sung pointed to a section of the map near their current location. This sector, where your people live, is next on their target list. Our ship's AI estimates they will arrive in full force within 6 months. Full force? Hyunwoo asked. How many ships are we talking about? Based on the data from today's battle, approximately 10,000 ships, maybe more. The bridge fell silent as the implications hit them. 10,000 ships like the ones they had just seen destroyed could wipe out entire star systems. But you stopped 12 of them easily, Sora said hopefully. Surely you can stop more? Yoo-jin shook her head. We are 347 warriors. There are perhaps 50 other ships like ours scattered across the galaxy, with similar numbers of enhanced humans. Against 10,000 Devourer ships, we would not be enough. Then what do we do? Yoonji asked. Jae-sung activated another display. This one showed technical specifications for Devourer technology. We fight smarter, not harder. The Devourers have a weakness. They are machines, following programmed patterns. They adapt to threats, but they cannot innovate the way organic minds can. What kind of innovation? Hyunwoo asked. Surprise tactics, weapons they have never seen before, strategies that break their programming. Yujin paused. But most importantly, we need the galactic civilizations to work together. The Devourers succeed because they divide their enemies, conquering one world at a time. Taeho studied the technical data on his screen. These power signatures are incredible. How do we build weapons that can penetrate their defenses? You don't, Jae-sung said simply. Normal weapons are useless against them. But there are other ways to fight. He activated a new display showing the interior of a Devourer ship. Their weakness is that they are machines, disrupt their control systems, and the entire ship becomes helpless. But to reach those control systems, someone has to go inside. Boarding actions, Dong-hyun said, understanding immediately. Like what you did in the battle. Exactly. But it requires warriors who can survive in hostile environments, fight in zero gravity, and operate independently for extended periods. Enhanced humans like us. Or people who can be enhanced, Yujin added, looking directly at the crew. Yoonji stepped forward. Are you suggesting that we could be modified like you? The process is dangerous, Jae-sung warned. Many do not survive it, and those who do are changed forever. We are no longer fully human. But you're still fighting for humanity, Hyunwoo said. Yes, but we are not human anymore. We are something else. Something designed for war. So Ra looked up from her communication station. Captain, I'm receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They want an immediate report on our mission. Hyunwoo thought about this. The Council would want to know about the Devourer threat, but would they believe the truth about the human warriors? Jae-sung, he said, what do you think we should tell them? Tell them the truth, all of it. The galaxy needs to prepare for what's coming. Will you help us convince them? Jae-sung and Yoo-jin exchanged a look. We cannot reveal ourselves officially. Our existence must remain a secret. But we can provide proof of the Devourer threat. Yoo-jin activated her device again, and new data appeared on the screen. These are the projected attack routes for the Devourer fleet. Share this with your council. Tell them it came from ancient archives or deep space monitoring stations. They don't need to know the source. What about you? Yoonji asked. What will you do now? We will do what we have always done, Jae-sung said. We will hunt the advanced scouts. We will gather intelligence on the main fleet. And when the time comes, we will strike at their command ships. Alone? Hyunwoo asked. Not alone, Yoo-jin corrected. There are other guardian ships like ours. We will coordinate our efforts. But, Captain, understand this. We cannot save the galaxy by ourselves. The civilized worlds must defend themselves. We can only buy them time. Taeho looked up from his analysis of the Devourer data. These ships, they're not just weapons, they're factories. They consume planets and use the raw materials to build more ships. Correct, Jae-sung said. Each world they consume makes them stronger. This is why they must be stopped before they reach the core systems. The implications were staggering. If the Devourers were allowed to consume more worlds, they would become unstoppable. How long do we have? Hyunwoo asked. 6 months until... The main fleet arrives in this sector, Yoo-jin said. But the advanced scouts will arrive much sooner, within weeks. Then we need to leave immediately, Hyunwoo decided. We have to warn the council and give them time to prepare. Jae-sung nodded. Go, spread the warning. But Captain, remember this. The galaxy's only hope is unity. If the civilizations fight together, they might survive. If they remain divided, they will all fall. As the human warriors prepared to return to their ship, Yunji approached Jae Sung with one final question. "If we survive this," she said, "if we manage to stop the Devourers, what happens to you and your people?" Jae Sung smiled sadly. "We return to sleep. We wait for the next threat. We are guardians, not conquerors. We exist to protect, not to rule." "That seems like a lonely existence," she said. "Perhaps. But it is our choice, our sacrifice, so that others can live in peace." The human warriors left the eternal dawn and returned to their ancient ship. As Hyunwoo watched them go, he realized that everything had changed. They were no longer simple explorers on a routine mission. They were now messengers carrying the most important warning in galactic history. The myths were true. Humanity was real. And they were all that stood between civilization and complete annihilation. 3 weeks had passed since the encounter in the Crimson Nebula. The Eternal Dawn had traveled at maximum speed to reach the Galactic Council headquarters on Nexus Prime. Captain Hyunwoo stood before the assembled representatives of 47 different species, trying to convince them that their worst nightmares were about to become reality. "The data is conclusive," he said, gesturing to the holographic display that showed the Devourer fleet movements. 10,000 enemy ships are approaching this sector. They will arrive within 5 months. Council leader Vectar, a tall reptilian, being from the Saurian Confederation, leaned forward in his chair. "Captain Hyunwoo, you ask us to believe that these Devourers are real based on ancient legends and mysterious data files. Where did this intelligence come from?" Hyunwoo had practiced this answer. "Deep space monitoring stations detected the fleet movements. The data was cross-referenced with historical archives from extinct civilizations." "Convenient," muttered Counselor Zeph, a crystalline being whose thoughts were transmitted through harmonic vibrations. "Data from sources we cannot verify, warning us of enemies from mythology." Sora, who had accompanied Hyunwoo to the hearing, stepped forward. "Counselors, we have recordings of the scout ships that attacked us. Their technology matches the descriptions in the ancient warnings exactly." The display changed to show the footage from their battle. The assembled counselors watched in stunned silence as the massive Devourer ships attacked with overwhelming force. "These ships were destroyed by unknown forces," Vectar observed. "Your report claims they were defeated by mythical human warriors. This strains credibility." "The evidence speaks for itself," Hyunwoo replied. "The Devourer ships were destroyed. Our ship survived. Something out there is fighting these enemies." Counselor Meldara, a graceful aquatic being, spoke through her translation device. "Even if we accept that these Devourers exist, why should we believe they pose a threat to our entire civilization? Perhaps they are simply pirates or raiders." Yunji, who had been analyzing data since their return, activated a new display. "Counselor, based on the wreckage analysis, each Devourer ship was equipped to strip mine entire planets. They're not raiders looking for treasure. They're harvesters looking for raw materials." "To build more ships," Dong-hyun added. "Every world they consume makes them stronger." The council chamber erupted in discussion as representatives spoke in dozens of languages and communication methods. Hyunwoo could see fear and disbelief warring in their expressions. Admiral Kresh, the military commander for the Galactic Defense Fleet, stood up. His species were known as excellent tacticians. Captain, assuming your warnings are accurate, what do you recommend we do? Our combined fleets number perhaps 3,000 ships. According to our analysis, Tejo said, conventional weapons have limited effectiveness against devourer technology. They adapt to any threat they encounter. Then how do we fight them? Admiral Kresh asked. Yunwu hesitated. This was the part of their story that sounded most unbelievable. Boarding actions. Someone has to get inside their ships and disable them manually. Boarding actions against an enemy fleet of 10,000 ships? Vektar's voice rose in disbelief. That would require thousands of assault troops willing to undertake suicide missions. Not suicide missions, Dong Yun corrected, but definitely high-risk operations requiring specialized equipment and training. Counselor Zeph's harmonic voice rang through the chamber. And where do you propose we find warriors capable of such operations? Our military forces are trained for conventional warfare, not boarding enemy vessels in the middle of space battles. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. We would need to enhance them. Genetic modifications, cybernetic implants, advanced life support systems. Warriors who can survive in hostile environments and fight independently. The chamber fell silent. Such modifications were theoretically possible, but most civilizations considered them unethical. You're talking about creating artificial soldiers, Meldara said with obvious distaste. Turning living beings into weapons. We're talking about survival, Hyunwoo replied. The devourers don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They consume everything in their path. If we don't adapt our tactics, we'll all be dead within a year. Admiral Kresh studied the tactical data on his personal display. Even if we approved such modifications, the process would take months. You said the enemy fleet arrives in 5 months. The advanced scouts will arrive much sooner, Sora said. Within weeks, we've already detected increased activity in the outer systems. Vektar stood up, his imposing figure commanding attention. This council will not authorize the creation of artificial warriors based on unverified intelligence and mythical stories. We will increase patrols in the outer systems and prepare conventional defenses. Conventional defenses won't work, Yunji said desperately. The Devourers have been fighting and adapting for thousands of years. They've already encountered every weapon system in our databases. Then perhaps, said a new voice, we should consider weapons that are not in any database. Everyone turned to see a figure entering the council chamber. It was Admiral Korvash, commander of the secretive Special Operations Division. His species were known for their strategic thinking and unconventional tactics. Admiral, Vektar said with surprise, this is a closed session. I have emergency authorization, Korvash replied, showing his credentials. I've been monitoring this briefing, and I believe Captain Hyunwoo's warnings deserve serious consideration. Admiral Kresh moved to stand beside his colleague. Korvash, surely you don't believe these stories about mythical human warriors? I believe in results, Korvash said. 12 enemy ships were destroyed with minimal casualties. That suggests tactics and technology we don't understand. Whether the source is mythical humans or advanced aliens doesn't matter. What matters is that someone out there knows how to fight these enemies. He activated his own display, showing intelligence reports from across the galaxy. For the past 6 months, we've been receiving reports of mysterious ship disappearances in the outer territories. Ships that vanish without distress calls or wreckage. The pattern matches the expansion described in Captain Hyunwoo's data. The chamber stirred uneasily as counselors realized the implications. Furthermore, Korvash continued, 3 days ago, We lost contact with the entire Kepler colony system. 23 billion inhabitants. When our scouts arrived, they found the planet stripped bare. No life signs, no structures, just empty rock. The silence in the chamber was deafening. The attack pattern matches the Devourer methodology exactly, Korvash said. Strip mining on a planetary scale, complete consumption of organic and metallic resources. Counselor Meldara's voice trembled as she spoke. 23 billion people, gone? Harvested, Tejo said grimly. Their matter converted into raw materials for more Devourer ships. Vectar sank back into his chair. If this is true, if these Devourers are real, and they destroyed an entire system, then we need to take Captain Hyunwoo's warning seriously, Admiral Korvash said. And we need to start preparing for the kind of warfare he's describing. Admiral Kresh stepped forward. What do you propose? Volunteer enhancement programs, Korvash said. Soldiers who are willing to undergo the modifications necessary to fight in hostile environments. Special assault units trained specifically for boarding actions. And the ethical concerns? Meldara asked. Ethics are a luxury for civilizations that aren't facing extinction, Korvash replied bluntly. We can debate the morality of creating enhanced warriors after we've survived. Hyunwoo felt a surge of hope. Finally, someone in authority was taking the threat seriously. How long would such a program take? Vectar asked. 3 months for the first volunteers, Korvash said. If we start immediately and use every available resource. That gives us 2 months before the main fleet arrives, Admiral Kresh calculated. Not much time. Time enough, Dong Hyun said. If we also prepare conventional defenses and evacuation plans for civilian populations. Korvash nodded. We'll need to coordinate military resources from every member civilization. This threat affects all of us equally. What about the mysterious allies who helped you? Vectar asked Hyunwoo. These human warriors, mythical or not? Can we count on their assistance? Hyunwoo chose his words carefully. They operate independently. They fight the Devourers wherever they find them. But they can't save the galaxy alone. We have to be prepared to defend ourselves. Then it's settled, Korvash said. We begin immediate preparations for asymmetric warfare, enhanced soldiers, boarding tactics, and unconventional weapons. Captain Hyunwoo, we'll need you and your crew to help train our forces. Of course, Hyunwoo replied. Whatever you need. As the council session ended and the representatives dispersed to contact their home governments, Hyunwoo felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. In 5 months, the largest enemy fleet in galactic history would arrive. The civilized worlds had that long to prepare for a type of warfare they had never imagined. The myths had become reality. Now they had to hope that reality would be enough to save them all. The Nexus Defense Station orbited the capital world like a metal moon, bristling with weapons and shields that represented the combined military technology of 47 civilizations. Captain Hyunwoo stood in the command center, watching the final preparations for the battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. It had been 4 months since the council session. 4 months of frantic preparation, training, and construction. The Volunteer Enhancement Program had produced 300 enhanced warriors from various species, all trained in the boarding tactics that might be their only hope against the Devourer fleet. "Captain," called Jimin from her tactical station. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the system. They're here." Admiral Korvash stepped up beside Hyunwoo, his expression grim. "How many?" 12,000 ships, Jimin reported, her voice steady despite the horrifying numbers. "They're larger than the scout vessels we encountered. Some of them are—" She paused, recalculating. "Some of them are the size of small moons." The main display activated, showing the approaching Devourer fleet. Even at maximum distance, the enemy vessels were clearly visible as dark shapes against the stars. They moved in perfect formation, like a plague of mechanical locusts descending on everything living. "All defensive positions, report status," Admiral Kresh commanded from the Fleet Coordination Center. "Defense Grid Alpha is online," came the first report. "Defense Grid Beta is online. Fighter squadrons are deployed. Enhanced assault teams are standing by." The reports continued, but Hyunwoo could see the fear in everyone's eyes. They had prepared as best they could, but 12,000 enemy ships was beyond anything they had imagined. "So-ra," Hyunwoo said to his communications officer. "Any word from our mysterious allies?" Sora checked her instruments. "No direct communication, Captain, but I am detecting some unusual energy signatures in the outer system. Something is out there." Taeho looked up from his engineering station. "Captain, the enhanced warriors are requesting permission to launch. They want to begin their approach while the enemy fleet is still in formation." Admiral Korvash shook his head. "Too early. We need to see their attack pattern first." "Sir," called Dong Hyun from the security station, "the enemy fleet is changing formation. They're spreading out to surround the entire system." The tactical display showed the Devourer ships moving into position around Nexus Prime and its defensive stations. Instead of attacking directly, they were forming an enormous sphere with the planet at its center. "They're not planning to conquer," Yoonji said with growing horror as she analyzed the formation. "They're planning to harvest. They're going to strip the entire system." The largest Devourer ship, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the biggest, defense platforms, moved to the center of the formation. Energy readings from the ship were off the scale. "That's their command ship," Admiral Kresh said. "If we could destroy that, we'd need to get through 11,999 other ships first," Admiral Korvash pointed out. The first phase of the attack began without warning. The Devourer ships opened fire simultaneously, their energy beams striking. Every defensive position at once. The combined firepower was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Defense Grid Alpha lasted 12 seconds before its shields collapsed and the platform exploded. Defense Grid Beta held for 15 seconds. Fighter squadrons tried to engage, but they were destroyed before they could even fire their weapons. "Conventional defenses are failing," Admiral Kresh reported, his voice strained. "We're losing everything." "Begin." "Phase 2, Admiral Korvash ordered. "Launch the enhanced assault teams." 300 warriors in advanced combat suits launched from hidden positions throughout the system. They used small, fast ships designed to avoid detection and get close to enemy vessels. These were the volunteers who had undergone the enhancement process, turning themselves into living weapons. Hyunwoo watched their progress on the tactical display. The enhanced warriors moved like nothing he had ever seen, their small craft weaving between enemy ships with impossible precision. "First boarding successful," reported Dong Hyun. "Enhanced Team 7 has penetrated Devourer ship designation. Alpha 15. Team 12 is inside Alpha 23. Team 19 has breached Alpha 31. The reports came in rapidly as the enhanced warriors reached their targets, but there were only 300 of them against 12,000 enemy ships. "Internal explosions detected in Alpha 15, Yoonji reported. "The ship is losing power." Alpha 23 is also showing critical damage. Alpha 31 is dead in space. The boarding. Tactics were working, but they were too few against too many. For every Devourer ship destroyed, 100 more continued their attack. "Captain," Sora called out, "I'm receiving a transmission on an unknown frequency. It's in the old human language." "Put it through," Hyun Woo ordered. The voice of Jae Sung filled the command center, speaking through Sora's translation system. "Admiral Korvash, this is Guardian Command. We are beginning our attack run. All enhanced units, fall back to defensive A positions." "Guardian Command," Admiral Korvash said in confusion. "Who is Guardian Command?" Hyunwoo smiled grimly. "Our mythical allies. They're real. And they're here." The long-range sensors suddenly lit up with new contacts. Ships were appearing throughout the system, seeming to come from nowhere. They were the angular, deadly warships of the enhanced humans. And there were more of them than Hyunwoo had expected. "I count 57 ships," Jimin reported with awe. "Guardian vessels, appearing all over the system. 57 ships against 12,000? Admiral Kresh said. "That's still impossible odds." But as they watched, the Guardian ships demonstrated why they were legendary. They moved through the Devourer formation like sharks through a school of fish, their weapons cutting through enemy. Shields as if they didn't exist. "How are they doing that?" Taeho asked in amazement. "Experience," Hyunwoo said. "They've been fighting the Devourers for centuries. They know exactly where to hit them." The Guardian ships didn't fight like normal fleet units. Instead of forming battle lines or coordinated formations, each ship operated independently, targeting weak points in the Devourer formation and exploiting them ruthlessly. "Guardian ship Eternal Vigil has destroyed 17 enemy vessels," Dong-hyun reported. "Guardian ship Iron Promise has eliminated 23 targets. Guardian ship Final Justice has neutralized 31 enemies." The numbers were incredible. But even as the Guardians carved through the enemy fleet, more Devourer ships kept arriving. The enemy had reinforcements, and they seemed endless. "Captain," Yujin's voice came through the communications system. "This is Guardian Tactical Command. We need your enhanced warriors to target the command ship. We'll clear a path." Admiral Korvash stepped forward. "Guardian Tactical, this is Admiral Korvash. Our enhanced teams are standing by, but the command ship is too heavily defended." "Not for long," came Jae Sung's voice. "All Guardian ships, execute Protocol 7. Target the command vessel." What happened next defied every rule of space warfare. The 57 Guardian ships stopped their individual attacks and moved in. Perfect coordination toward the massive Devourer command ship. They formed up into a single spear point formation and accelerated directly at their target. The Devourer fleet responded by turning all their weapons on the approaching Guardians. The space around the human ships became a storm of energy beams and missiles. Several Guardian vessels were destroyed, their crews sacrificing themselves to protect the others. But the remaining ships reached their target. Instead of engaging the command ship from a distance, they did something unprecedented. They rammed it. "They're boarding the command ship," Yunji said in shock. "All of them. They're abandoning their ships and fighting inside the enemy vessel." The massive Devourer command ship began showing signs of internal damage as hundreds of enhanced human warriors fought their way through its corridors. The other Devourer ships seemed confused without commands from their central coordinator. "Now!" Admiral Korvash shouted. "All enhanced teams target the disabled ships. All remaining fleet units, full attack!" The battle became a chaotic melee, as every surviving defender threw themselves at the confused Devourer fleet. The enhanced warriors, inspired by the Guardian example, pressed their attacks with desperate courage. Slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. Ship after ship, the Devourer vessels went dark as their control systems were destroyed from within. The mechanical precision of their formation broke down into chaos. "The command ship is losing power," Jimin reported. Internal explosions throughout the vessel. On the main display, they could see the massive command ship beginning to break apart from the inside. Whatever the Guardian warriors were doing in there, it was working. "All Guardian units, this is Jae-sung," came the transmission. "Command ship is secure. Beginning data extraction from enemy computers." "Data extraction?" Admiral Korvash asked. "We're learning their plans," Eugen's voice explained. "Where they come from, how many more fleets exist, what their ultimate goal is." The battle was ending. Of the 12,000 Devourer ships, less than 1,000 remained functional, and those were retreating from the system. The Guardian warriors had turned certain defeat into unexpected victory. But as Hyunwoo looked at the tactical display, 6 months had passed since the Battle of Nexus Prime. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt defense station, looking out at the construction yards where new ships were being built. These weren't the elegant exploration vessels of the past, but angular warships designed for the new reality the galaxy faced. The war against the Devourers continued across dozens of star systems. The intelligence extracted from the destroyed Common